think you can change your marriage.
Change your marriage? What do you mean? Like you mostly eat in on Fridays and then you eat out, or that you're at each other's throats and suddenly you're Cinderella and Prince Charming?
The second one.
No. No, you married who you marry, you are who you are. Why would that change?
Well, if you wanted it to.
No, I think for that to happen, it would have to be so bad that somebody was willing to risk everything just to shake things up, and then it may not come down your way. Change is hard. Marriages don't change.
All right. Well, let's open up our session with a popular verse. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. This picture is something that I've seen where a tree and a fence, the tree actually grew into the fence, and they basically merged. The fence actually goes right through the tree. They became one. And becoming one in a marriage is a time process. It doesn't happen just because you have a ceremony. At your wedding ceremony, you are not necessarily one. You are called to be one. And being one takes time. It takes skill. It takes knowledge. It takes prayer. It takes a lot of things. And unfortunately, some people never acquire the oneness that is intended for marriage to be.
We were both born in the same hospital.
1921.
7 days apart.
In the same hospital.
We both grew up one block away from each other, on the Lower East Side.
On Delancey Street.
My family moved to the Bronx when I was 10.
He lived on Fordham Road.
Hers moved when she was 11.
I lived on 183rd Street.
For 6 years, she worked on the 15th floor.
I worked for a very prominent
as a
neurologist.
nurse, where I had to
Dr.
practice
Bimmelman.
on the 14th floor, the very same building.
We never met.
Never met.
Can you imagine that?
You know where we met? In an elevator.
I was visiting
in
family.
the Ambassador Hotel in Chicago,
He was on the
Illinois.
3rd floor. I was on the 12th.
I rode up 9 extra floors just to keep talking to her.
9 extra floors.
A cute couple. They are able to finish each other's sentences. That's how much they have grown to be one. They have become that familiar with each other and adoring each other in that way. Marriage is not something that is unique, obviously, and we all know, to the Christian faith. Marriage is not something unique to any time frame. Marriage goes way back into history. It's not something locked into Judaism or Christianity. Just about every culture throughout history has had some form of marriage. Even in slavery times, African slaves were not allowed to do much of anything without their masters. They were not allowed to have their own homes and property, go to their own churches, and they were not allowed to marry or date or what have you, the things that we find traditional and conventional. But even the African slaves had developed a ceremony known as jumping the broom, where they would have their in-house, their own ceremony to celebrate and to establish a marital situation. Sometimes it would be done by a religious person, if there was such one. Sometimes it was done by a witch doctor. But they had, even there, in those confines, there was the desire to be committed and married to an individual. So it's all through history, it's all through cultures, and I imagine that it will be here for a long time. Now, there have been tremendous changes in our culture relative to marriage. Same-sex marriage is practically universal and legal in this country. And we've had many gay couples that are now being married, and it's become the norm. Understand also that our children growing up, like my son, who is 30 years old, and my grandson, they are going to grow up in a time when there was never not a gay marriage. So what we find as very strange and bizarre and unusual and maybe right or wrong, they're going to find it very normal. That's going to be their norm. That's the culture that we're growing up in. What do we do with that? Because the people in same-sex marriages, they're our co-workers now. They're our sons and daughters in some cases. They're our nephews. Do we disown them? Do we cut ourselves off from them? How do we manage that? How do we deal with that? So it's a challenge for the church. It's something that we really need to pray about and seek God's wisdom on how to handle that and what should be our response. We may feel that we know what our biblical conviction is, and that's great for us, but what do we do with them? How do we treat them? How do we win them over? Another situation in marriages that I find that I have found over the recent years as well is the financial struggles for married couples. What I mean by that is I know quite a few couples that would love to be joined in holy matrimony. But if they get married, he loses his health insurance, their taxes go up, the alimony from the last marriage stops, they lose their pensions from this one. And so they want to be married, but between the taxes and the health insurance and all of these other financial things that our government demands of us, makes it nearly impossible for couples to be married. Again, what do we do with that? You know, how do we handle that? These are new challenges for the church today, I find. 30, 40 years ago, these issues were not there. So along with all of the challenges and struggles and issues that can invade any marriage, now you have these kinds of issues coming in as well. And so we really need to seek God's wisdom and guidance on what to do with this. All right. Scriptures have much to say about marriage, obviously. Then the Lord God said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him." Give honor to marriage and remain faithful to one another in marriage. God will surely judge people who are immoral and those who commit adultery. The man who finds a wife finds a treasure and receives favor from the Lord. So there seems to be a lot of positive things said about marriage in the Bible. So it brings us to the question is, what is the quality of your marriage? Or what is the quality that you hope your marriage will be? What is the quality of marriage? Where are you in your marriage?
We were married 40 years ago. We were married 3 years, we got a divorce. Then I married Marjorie.
But first you lived with Barbara.
Right, Barbara. But I didn't marry Barbara, I married Marjorie.
Then you got a divorce.
Right, then I married Katie.
Another divorce.
Then a couple of years later at Eddie Colicchio's funeral, I ran into her. I was with some girl I don't even remember.
Roberta.
Right, Roberta. But I couldn't take my eyes off you. I remember I snuck over to her and I said, What did I say?
You said, what are you doing after?
Right. So I ditched Roberta. We go for coffee. A month later, we're married.
35 years today after our first marriage.
35 years, that a good marriage? It's often thought that people who have been married for a long time must be a good marriage. But being married for a long time doesn't mean you have a good marriage. I've known plenty of people that were married for 30, 40 years, and it was never a good marriage. So time doesn't necessarily improve your marriage. Time doesn't necessarily justify or validate the quality of your marriage.
What happened to Alex?
She had to leave town early to get to a meeting.
It's too bad. Where's she live?
Chicago.
Thinking of going to see her?
I don't really have that kind of relationship. Try right over there. That's right.
What, kind of relationship do you have?
You know, casual.
Sounds pretty special.
It works for us.
Don't you think there's a future there?
I never really thought about it. What's going on here?
Really never thought about it?
No.
How can you not think about that? How does it not even cross your mind that you might want a future with someone?
It's simple. You know that moment when you look into somebody's eyes and you can feel them staring into your soul and the whole world goes quiet just for a second?
Yes.
Right, well, I don't.
So he doesn't have a very high view of marriage.
Make no mistake, your relationships are the heaviest components in your life. You feel the straps cutting into your shoulders, all those negotiations and arguments and secrets and compromises. You don't need to carry all that weight. Why don't you set that bag down? Some animals were meant to carry each other, to live symbiotically for a lifetime. Star-crossed lovers, monogamous swans. We are not those animals. The slower we move, the faster we die. We are not swans. We're sharks.
Never?
No.
Ever?
No.
You never want to get married?
Nope.
Never want kids?
Not a chance.
Ever?
Never. Is that so bizarre?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I just don't see the value in it. All right, sell it to me.
What?
Sell me marriage.
Okay, how about love?
Okay.
Stability? Just somebody you can count on?
How many stable marriages do you know?
Somebody to talk to? Someone to spend your life with?
I'm surrounded by people to talk to. I doubt that's going to change.
How about just not dying alone?
Starting when I was 12, we moved each one of my grandparents into a nursing facility. My parents went the same way. Make no mistake, we all die alone. Now, those cult members in San Diego with the Kool-Aid and the sneakers, they didn't die alone. I'm just saying there are options.
Brian left me.
Oftentimes when I do classes like this, it sounds like I'm speaking in absolutes. Men do this, women do that. And inevitably, people come up and say, well, that's not true. My husband doesn't do that, and my sister wasn't like that. You can't make generalities. But sociology is generalizing. So I understand that not all men do it this way, not all women are like that, Not all Christians have this particular worldview. Not all people in the world think like this. So for the purposes of what we're doing here, taking a sociological look, a study of groups, it does sound like we're generalizing, and you're right, we are. So while I know that there are exceptions, now when we do marriage seminars, and maybe some people here have been in such seminars, there's usually certain themes that arise and get discussed and get focused on. One of them is understanding differences. People like John Gray with the classic work, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, his premise that there is a vast difference between the way men think and the way women think. And that is where a lot of the conflicts and the disharmony comes in, as why struggles occur in marriages, because men and women are different. So that is certainly true. There are differences between men and women, and that's not all that news. And a lot of seminars will focus on that, and rightly so, and there's nothing wrong with that.
How often do you sleep together?
Hardly ever, maybe 3 times a week.
Do you have sex often?
Constantly. I'd say 3 times a week.
Okay. Case in point, right? Men and women think differently. And so the purposes of marriage seminars, they would say, well, we're here to try to understand those differences. So that would be a common theme that you would expect to encounter on these seminars. Another approach in understanding that occurs in marriage seminars, another theme is communications. Marriages fail because of a lack of communications, and so the purpose of marriage seminars is to help improve communications. If there's problems in marriages, it's because of a lack of communication. That is a very common theme that you're likely to hear within any given marriage seminar. And so again, in understanding the differences, we have to understand how men think and communicate and how women think and communicate. And again, I do not disagree with any of those things. That is very true. Men communicate differently. Everybody knows that men will not ask for directions. And why is that? Why don't men like to ask for directions? Because men need to feel empowered. Men don't like feeling helpless, that they need help and guidance from somebody else. So men have they have their issues in feeling like, I'm able to do this, I'm empowered.
Are you broke?
Yes.
Is this the thing you gave my husband?
Oh, yeah. Yes, the Name Your Price tool. You tell us the price you want to pay, and we give you a range of options to choose from. Careful, though. That kind of power can go to your head.
That explains a lot.
Yo, buddy. I got this. Give me one. Give me one.
So because of those issues, they say that the object of the game is to improve communications. And they would say that most marriages fail because of lack of communication. I would take a slightly different view of that. I don't believe that communication, while it is important and it is an issue, is not really the reason why most marriages fail. For me, most marriages fail because they grow apart from each other. Like this illustration, this tree started at the same place, maybe even from the same root, but in the process of time, they have just gone their separate ways. When people are married, particularly over a long period of time, you are expected to change. Your partner is expected to change, and many people do. And so you get a couple that's married at 19, well, they're not the same couple when they're 45. And they're not the same couple when they're 68. They grow and they develop. Things change about them. And they don't always grow at the same rate. There are some that don't grow at the same speed. So in other words, what happens when she's developing and maturing and growing, and he still acting like he was when he was 19? Again, you're growing apart instead of growing together. There was a movie called Same Time Next Year, a cute movie. It was actually a couple that was having an affair. They were both married, and they would meet once a year for one weekend out of the year. And it went on for like 20, 25 years or so. And throughout the movie, through the various scenes, you actually see this couple really change. Their values change. Their politics change. They matured. They got children. Their finances change. And you saw just through this one weekend the various changes that they went through and the conflicts that those changes brought in. So growing apart is what will really take your marriage into different directions.
Well, after the first couple of months, she and Charlie didn't see much of each other except at breakfast. It was a marriage just like any other marriage.
You're beautiful.
Oh, I can't.
Yes, you are. You're very, very beautiful.
I've never been to 6 parties in my
Extremely
life.
beautiful.
My whole life. I've never even been up this late.
It's a matter of habit.
I wonder what the servants will think.
They'll think we enjoyed ourselves.
Yes.
Didn't we?
I don't see why you have to go straight out to the newspaper.
You never should have married a newspaper man. They're worse than sailors. I absolutely adore you.
Oh, Charles, even newspaper men have to sleep.
I'll call Mr. Bernstein, have him put off my appointments until noon. What time is it?
Oh, I don't know. It's late.
It's early.
Charles, do you know how long you kept me waiting last night while you went to the newspaper for 10 minutes? What do you do on a newspaper in the middle of the night?
Emily, my dear, your only correspondent is the Inquirer.
Sometimes I think I'd prefer a rival of flesh and blood.
Oh, Emily, I don't spend that much time on the newspaper.
It isn't just the time. It's what you print. Attacking the president.
You mean Uncle John?
I mean the president of the United States.
He's still Uncle John. He's still a well-meaning fathead who's letting a pack of high-pressure crooks run his administration. This whole oil scandal.
He happens to be the president, Charles, not you.
That's a mistake that will be corrected one of these days.
Your Mr. Bernstein sent Junior the most incredible atrocity yesterday, Charles. I simply can't have it in the nursery.
Mr. Bernstein is apt to pay a visit to the nursery now and then.
Does he have to?
Yes.
Really, Charles? People will think...
What I tell them to think.
I find that a good illustration of how couples grow apart. You see this couple through the years at a breakfast table, how they started and where they went. The communication definitely took a change, but they changed. They were different people. So the change in the communications was a reflection of the change in their personalities, their life situations. And this is what happens. They tend to grow apart. I want to talk about the decline of marriage. How does a marriage fail? Even a drastic, traumatic situation like an affair, which would seem to collapse a marriage in many cases literally overnight, even that is usually through a process of time. There are still, while it may seem like it happened all of a sudden, it came from nowhere, most of the times it was a long time coming. There are certain signs and statuses that a marriage will go before they decline and end up totally dissolved.
Daddy? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too. I want you to go to sleep, because it's really late. Hey?
Daddy?
Now, what is it?
Are you going away?
No. I'm staying right here with you. You're not going to get rid of me that easy.
It's where Mommy left, isn't it? Because I was bad.
Is that what you think? No. That's not it, Billy. Your mom loves you very much, and the reason she left doesn't have anything to do with you. I don't know whether this is going to make any sense, but I'll try to explain it to you, okay? I think the reason why Mommy left was because for a long time now I've kept trying to make her be a certain kind of person, Billy. A certain kind of wife that I thought she was supposed to be. And she just wasn't like that. She just wasn't like that. And now that I think about it, I think that she tried for so long to make me happy. And when she couldn't, she tried to talk to me about it, see? But I wasn't listening because I was too busy. I was too wrapped up just thinking about myself. And I thought that anytime I was happy, that meant she was happy. But I think underneath, she was very sad. Mommy stayed here longer than she wanted to, I think, because she loves you so much. And the reason why Mommy couldn't stay anymore was because she couldn't stand me, Billy. She didn't leave because of you, she left because of me.
You can see here, it's almost like for the first time he was realizing why his marriage failed, and that it wasn't something that came about all of a sudden, but it was something that happened over a relatively long period of time. What is the usual decline of a marriage? What are the routes that a failing marriage will take? When they start off, it's basically content. You're happy, things are going well, no regrets. And then the next step is confusion. You start to wonder, did I do the right thing here? Did I make a mistake? Did I jump the gun? Was I not listening to God? Just not exactly like I thought it would be.
I need to tell you something.
Okay.
I feel like I'm living someone else's life. I remember I used to walk to work, and I had a warm Bialy in my hand, and a hot cup of coffee from Dean and DeLuca, and a crisp feeling of the Wall Street Journal. I smelled leather from my briefcase. I used to be so sure about everything, confident, you know. I knew exactly who I was and what I wanted. And then one morning I woke up and suddenly it was all different.
Worse, do you mean?
No. Well, maybe a few things, but mostly just different.
Do you think there aren't mornings when I wake up and wonder what am I doing in New Jersey?
Yeah.
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 I think about it too. I do. I wonder about what kind of life I would have had if I hadn't married you.
That's the confused stage. When you just start to wonder if you made the right choice. Is there something wrong? Is this really what I was expecting? It goes from the confused stage to a struggling stage.
Honey, I agree with you. You gotta get out. He don't deserve you.
You can say that again. A real man's gotta be a hero to his wife before he can be to anybody else. Or he ain't a real man.
Catherine, do you need a place to stay? I can't imagine living in the same house with that man.
No, I decided last night that I'm not the one that's leaving. He's the problem, not me.
That's right, girl. Stand your ground. Make him respect you. If there's one thing a man understands...
It's respect. That's the issue. That's the reason our marriage is failing. She shows me no respect at all. And the saddest part about it is...
He doesn't have a clue. He thinks our marriage has been fine for the most part. You know, he probably thinks...
Our marriage has been fine until this year. Now all of a sudden she goes off the deep end.
Do you really think this happened all of a sudden?
I don't know what to think. I don't understand her. She's emotional about everything. She's easily offended and way too sensitive.
I mean, he's so insensitive. You know? He doesn't truly care how I feel. He doesn't listen to me. Even if I say it over and over and over again.
And then she starts nagging me and saying I don't listen to her or something like that. It drives me crazy. I feel like I'm going...
insane. You know, he doesn't understand my needs. I feel like we are completely and totally...
incompatible. She's probably whining to her friends, making me sound like a criminal. I can see them all right now, crying, having some sort of group hug.
It's gonna be okay, sweetie. It's gonna be all right.
You'll get through this.
When you get to the struggling stage, it can go down from there. It goes down to the miserable stage. And that's when things are just totally unhappy.
What are you doing?
So you left me no pizza?
Caleb, I just lit that candle. I like the way it smells.
Well, I don't. Did you leave me any dinner at all?
I assumed you were eating with Michael.
Does it not occur to you that there are two people living in this house and both of them need to eat?
You know what, Caleb? If you would communicate with me, maybe I could have something for you.
Why do you have to make everything so difficult?
Oh, I'm making everything difficult? Seems to me like I'm the one carrying the weight around here while you're off doing your own thing.
Excuse me? I'm the one out there working to pay this mortgage, and I pay for both of the cars.
Yeah, and that's all you do. I pay all of our bills with my salary.
Which you agreed to do. That's fair. Do you not like this house? Do you not like your car?
Oh, Caleb, who takes care of this house? Me. Who washes all the clothes? Me. Who gets all the groceries? Me. Not to mention I'm helping my parents every weekend. You know, I've got all this pressure on me, and the only thing you ever do for anybody is for yourself.
Let me tell you something. You don't know the first thing about pressure. All right, you think I put out house fires for myself? Or rush to car wrecks at 2 a.m. for myself? Or pull a child's body out of a lake for myself? You have no idea what I go through.
Oh, yeah, but what do you do around here other than watch TV and waste time on the internet? You know what? If looking at that trash is how you get fulfilled, that's fine, but I will not compete with it.
Well, I sure don't get it from you.
And you won't! Because you care more about saving for your stupid boat and pleasing yourself than you ever did about me.
Shut up! I'm sick of you! You disrespectful, ungrateful, selfish woman! How dare you say that to me? You constantly nag me and you drain the life out of me. I'm tired of it. If you can't give me the respect I deserve, look at me. Then what's the point of this marriage?
I want out. I just want out.
If you want out, that's fine with me!
That's the miserable stage, and you would think that that is the absolute bottom of the barrel. You would think that marriages will end at that point. It's sad and ironic and maybe unfortunate that even there you have people that end up staying together, but now they move to another stage, and that is a stage of done. They're just done. They're emotionally divorced. They have just settled in their mind and their soul that it's over, and they have given up.
What are you doing?
Maybe I'd like to have dinner with my wife.
Let me be real clear with you about something. I do not love you.
And yet they're still married. The ironic thing about this is that this is when many of them come to church. Many of them go for counseling at the done stage. Rather than coming in at the confused stage, or even the struggling or miserable stage, they come in at the done stage, which obviously makes it difficult to resurrect a failed marriage. Now, in the church, over the years that I've been here in the church, I've noticed a particular trend. Because the church is so anti-divorce, right? The Bible says God hates divorce. When a couple comes in at the done stage, it's usually the guy who agrees to come in. And again, I know there's exceptions, and many times there are. Sometimes it's the husband who wants counseling first. Oftentimes it's the woman who wants counseling. She'll come in the confused stage or the struggling stage and say, we need help. Let's go for counseling. Let's talk to the pastor. The guy is, no, I don't need to do that. I'm fine. I'm not going to, my business is my business. And they wait until it's finally gone. When they get to the done stage, it's usually the wife who files for divorce, or the restraining order, or both. And it's the wife who wants out, and she wants to leave. Which is really not unusual, because it's usually always the guy who wants to stay. Why would he leave? He has a house, he has food, he has sex. He doesn't have the kids, so he has no problem staying. It's the wife who at this point is like, I'm done, I can't do it anymore. Well, she files for divorce. He now all of a sudden wants to go for counseling. So they come into the church, and guess who is the guy's best friend? The church. Because she's the one who wants to divorce. So the church tends to take his side. She comes in and says, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, I want a divorce, I've had it. The guy is saying, oh, I'm willing to work it out now. And so the guy, the counselor, takes sides with the guy, which is almost like a double betrayal now. Because she's the one who wants to divorce, not him. But what the counselor fails to see is that for the past couple of years, she's been pleading, let's go for counseling, let's do this, let's fix this. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so it's a double betrayal. I actually know a pastor who counseled a couple in that situation, and he says, I don't even want to counsel you until you take divorce off the table. Well, divorce didn't just jump on the table. Divorce came after maybe years of confused, struggling, miserable. So for counselors, for just companions, for family members, don't be so quick to jump on the person who wants the divorce. Don't just assume that that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy or the bad girl. Because oftentimes, more often than not, there's a lot of history behind that. And just because she's at the done stage, it doesn't mean that she wasn't trying and pleading and praying for things to change. He was just never willing. And again, I understand that that works in the vice versa.